This is our webinar, our info session on the Connex Tech Prize, the Amazon. Thanks again for everyone for joining. Just a quick note on translation. Carmen, do you want to explain the translation setup?
Sí, para quienes estén hablando en idioma distinto, pueden por favor ingresar al botón de interpretación.
If you're listening to the different language than the one that is being spoken by the presenter, you can go to the interpretation mode and choose your preferred language.
Obrigada.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's get started. I know we're a few minutes late. Just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to quickly just talk about CXL, sort of why we're doing this, and a brief introduction into the Connex Tech Prize and what we mean by Connex Tech Prize. We are super honored to have our first ever Connex Tech Prize winner, Matthew Mulrennan, on the line, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his experience on the CXTP, where he is now, and just kind of give us all sort of an overview on what the Connex Tech Prize meant to him. We're also lucky to have Marian Adeney on the line. So she leads our Amazon and Fire programs at Conservation X Labs. She's going to provide a little bit of motivation around why we're focusing this Connex Tech Prize on the Amazon. And then I'm going to come back in at the end and talk a little bit about competition details. So go into some of the timelines, some of the criteria that we're going to be looking for, the eligibility criteria, and just some of those kind of ins and outs of exactly what the competition entails. And then finally, we are going to have a Q&A. Hopefully we don't talk too long. We want to make this an interactive session. We want you guys to be able to ping us with any questions you might have. And so we really want to be able to use that time. So, as we're speaking, please put in questions in the Q&A, and we'll hit all of those at the end. And so just very quickly, so my name is Chad Gallanet. I've been with Conservation X Labs for about 6 years. I am currently the Foundry Director, and I've been involved with a lot of our prizes and challenges, including some of the early Connex Tech Prizes that we are going to just briefly mention. First of all, I just want to talk a little bit about who Conservation X Labs is. So we, as you can see on the slide, we're an innovation and technology organization that works on conservation. And we're really focused on what we can do to prevent the 6th mass extinction. So we look a lot at those sort of drivers of biodiversity loss. What are the pressures that ecosystems have on that are contributing to biodiversity loss, and how can we help solve those? And so we feel like these types of competitions are part of, or these types of competitions are in our toolbox to help solve these sort of big global conservation problems that we've identified. We approach this problem through sort of 3 kind of parallel opportunities of work. And so first of all, we do directed innovation. What that means essentially is we have engineering teams, and we have 3 product teams in-house. I'm not going to go into those in detail, but you can check out our website if you want more information, that are developing actual products that go into the field and help conservationists with their jobs, essentially. The other thing we do, which is this Connex Tech Prize fits solely in, is the work around open innovation. What open innovation essentially means to us are running things like prizes and challenges. So how do we incentivize clever, smart individuals from around the globe to pay attention to the problems that we think are really important? And through things like the Connex Tech Prize and our other Grand Challenge programs, we're able to incentivize these new solution makers to pay attention to these big problems and help solve these things. And then finally, we have a pillar of work around this reinventing conservation. So this is really a sort of cross-cutting activities that in addition to bringing in new solvers through our open innovation work and building products through our directed innovation work, we're able to help build communities of practice, empower global solvers throughout the world to really pay attention to these big problems. So those are kind of our 3 sort of buckets of activity that we work in. And now just want to talk a little bit about what we've done around the open innovation side of the house. So over the last 8 years, we've run on the order of like 10 or so prizes and challenges, incentivizing over 140 some innovations. So we've supported, given direct financial support in addition to other things to these innovations from around 70 different countries around the world. And those innovations, those groups that have come through our prizes and challenges have then gone on to raise an additional 300 million in follow-on investment. So we feel like we're really good at kind of bringing people into really clever people into what we're doing, and then helping them be successful going forward. And so with that, we have our Connex Tech Prize. We've run this 3 times in the past. This is the first time we've focused on sort of a geographical region, the Amazon. But this is really what we mean by Connex Tech Prize. And so it's short for Conservation X Labs Tech Prize. But it's really a global competition to help identify or help provide seed funding for prototype development, proof of concept development. How do we get ideas off paper and actually into the field or starting to test? So this is really what we're really trying to really focus on is innovators that just need a little bit of funding or a little bit of incentive to really push things from paper or from their mind into real life. Again, we ran this in 2018 and a couple additional rounds in 2019. They all had a sort of a different thematic focus area. I'm not going to get into that. But every time we've done the same, we've sort of provided the same amount of funding. So what we're going to do is we're going to give 20 teams $3,500 to develop the prototypes. We are then going to collect information on those prototypes, and we are going to provide 30K in total prize winnings. So one grand prize winner of those 20 teams will get 20K, and 2 winners will get 5K. So sort of like a second place prizes. Again, seed funding to really get these ideas, into real life. Again, this is the 4th time we've run this, and we're super honored to have our first ever winner from the 2018 Connex Tech Prize, Matt Mulrennan, with us today. He wears many hats. So through his work at Colossals was where he applied for the CXTP and won, but he's since moved on to help found the Savia Ventures and recently joined the Sustainable Ocean Alliance as their director of investments. And Matt, I am going to pass the mic over to you, and I'll also put up this next slide, which shows your summary of your experience at the Connex Tech Prize. I'll pause for a moment, allow yourself to introduce yourself, and come in and with some questions, like we can have a little bit of a conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chad, and thanks so much to the CXL team. As always, I've known you guys since the very beginning. I've known Paul. I used to work with Paul Bunchy as well at X Prize Foundation. So I've actually been on both sides of prizes, both awarding prizes and designing and running prizes, as well as actually winning this prize. So it was an interesting experience. So I've been on both sides of this. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about, my background, what we did, and then I can kind of give some suggestions, of how to win a prize, because I know that maybe is a good takeaway from this call. But my background, been in the ocean space for 15 years. I went to Scripps Institute of Oceanography. I studied ocean and climate there. Did some at-sea research as well. During that time, I was over in DC. I did my tour of Washington, DC at Oceana. So I'd worked on Capitol Hill, advocating for policies on ocean health. So did a lot of climate and energy work there as well, doing things like promoting offshore wind and pushing back against things like offshore drilling. And then I kind of got really interested in the tech side of it and the innovation side of it. It was just very positive mindset, creating something new, brand new that the world hasn't experienced before. And that can just move very quickly. And I love that. It was a little frustrating working in policy work because it was a lot of things that are out of your hands, but get really hands-on, you can actually create something. And that was really nice. So I moved back out west. I was working at X Prize Foundation, was the director of the Ocean Initiative. So we did, $10 million in prizes during that time, 50 different groups awarded. So we did everything from pH sensors to underwater drones and apps, a bunch of cool stuff. I was the CEO of a network called Invest. So it's a climate tech investor network. So I've moved over to from the early stage innovation side to the actually investing side. And that's kind of where I've lived for the last few years. But on the side of it, I've been doing this passion project that I started in 2018 that I want to talk to you about. That is a deep sea camera trap that we developed. So for the prize, we were trying to get to Antarctica and actually look for the biggest squid in the world called the colossal squid. And we actually just went on these expeditions last year. We went on 4 expeditions and I was at sea for 60 days deploying this camera system off Antarctica. So the question is, how do you get there? We didn't have a ship, we didn't have the technology. So to back all the way up, we competed in this prize and we received the small original grant, the $3,500 grant, to try and test this out. So we used that to get people together. We got 3 different teams together from around the world in Canada, San Diego. Myself was in LA. We got them together off the coast of San Diego, and we actually put a deep sea camera trap into the deep ocean twice in 24 hours, and actually was able to film stuff as well. So pretty incredible what was able to be accomplished with a small amount. But then we also used it to fundraise. So we held a fundraiser. We did a little bit of marketing, and we helped raise the profile of what we're doing. And ultimately that ended up winning the prize. So this prize money was essential for us to continue the technology development, as well as to actually end up getting on a ship later on to Antarctica and actually do this expedition itself. So we found a lot of cool stuff. We're doing 4 publications from it. We're submitting the data to regulators, identifying vulnerable marine environments. We did a lot of biodiversity assessments down there as well. It's a hard to gather data region, it's very remote. So this prize was essential for us. And I'm excited to talk to you about a little bit about what we did and maybe a little bit about how to win prizes as well. But yeah, thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I think that's really it's a really good point to make. So I think part of what we really want to achieve with the Connex Tech Prize is obviously getting these prototypes made, but then also that testing piece is something that we hear time and again that is just so important for folks to do. And we know from deploying our own technology, test, especially in something like the deep sea marine environment. Oh man, that's a difficult operating condition for sure. So I know this is still sort of your passion project with Colossal. I was wondering if there was anything. Well, yeah, I think you made some good points about how to win the prize. If you have anything more to add, I would love to hear that. But then I also kind of wanted to hear how your career path, how did you land where you are today, and is there any I don't know, any connections to the Connex Tech Prize with Savia or with SOA?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more basically, as I was kind of mentioning, I went from the science side to the policy side, and then I got really interested in the engineering side and the technology side. And my favorite parts of working at X Prize, as well as where I work on the investing side between Invest and Savia and Sustainable Ocean Alliance, is that I get to work with early stage startups. So right where a lot of the teams are now that are competing, when you're first trying to prototype something, or you're first taking it to market, or you're raising a pre-seed round or a seed round of funding and trying to scale up the business side of it. So I really am interested in when you take it from a first off technology and then you're trying to sell the first devices, you're trying to scale up the business plan. How do you get from point A to point Z on that? And it's a really challenging part for startups, and that's why and I think it's really important part for climate and conservation outcomes. So that's where I wanted to focus. Was where I see that we have a lot of talent going into this field, but it's really hard to get to that finished product phase and then proving itself out in a market. It is. You can develop a lot of things in the lab, but whether people want it and are going to buy it and use it is a huge next step and a next hurdle. So I think through that all the way to the end of who are the primary users. In this case, what we developed was a technology that was then sold. So this technology was sold to Marine Institute as the first generation of this tech. So Subsea Imaging, our partner out of Canada, developed custom made for this competition. We did the first field testing of the second generation of this technology in Antarctica, if you can believe that. So you say test, test, test. We didn't actually have time to test everything because we had to get on a ship in Canada for it to actually get shipped down to Argentina and then bumped down to Antarctica. So if you can imagine, the first time we were deploying this out the door and fully was in situ in Antarctica. So a really harsh environment, a lot of ice, waves, everything. And we were able to deploy it 36 times with no issues, and develop a lot of really, really cool information, cool sciences coming out of it, conservation, as well as some entertainment kind of purposes that are coming out of it. So yeah, so that's just how important a prize can be for you. It helps get us some press as well. We're on NPR, I believe, a major media network in the United States, and that helped us, you know, in the next steps of, you know, here's this cool thing we're doing. So we had the technology, and the next thing we needed to do was get a ship, and so we partnered up with this tourism company to take us down to Antarctica and do the further deployments. So just generally speaking, you know, that I love the hands-on work side of it. I love the field work side of it. I love when you're actually moving out of the lab to test something. And that's been a really cool part of my career and trajectory. I did a little bit myself, you know, obviously, but I've really supported a lot of groups doing it as well. So that first, you know, please work kind of phase is really fun when you first deploy it into the field. And that's what we did with this Connex Tech Prize. And we used the deadlines. We, you know, followed the instructions, and it helped us, you know, actually make it into a real product that's actually being sold now, as well as doing some really cool science and conservation as well. So the outcome was pretty significant.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. We don't want to spend too much time talking here, but there was one thing I did want to hear from you about Insavia Ventures, and we understand it's a sort of an impact investing firm focused in Latin America. Anything you want to mention about your sort of thesis around investing and the types of companies that you're looking for there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll mention the two groups I've been working with. So been living in Latin America because I was going to Antarctica as well. I was living in Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, and Chile. My wife is Colombian, so I have some affinity for the region already. And I just think it's a prime place for climate talent. And there's a lot of groups developing awesome solutions there, and they're just not necessarily getting to the next stage. So it's now the fastest growing region for venture capital is actually Latin America. And we combine this thesis of, okay, it's a fast growing region for venture capital. Climate tech funding is taking off globally, especially in the US. Why don't we just try to combine these two threads? And that became Savia Ventures. I met my partner, Andres, who unfortunately couldn't be here to speak with you. He's out fundraising currently, but we've done several investments. We invest in the pre-seed and seed stage. Met Andres. I was moving to Latin America, and he was starting this great idea. He's Chilean. He lives in Mexico, and he, you know, MBA guy, Oxford guy. He'd run a climate fund, and he said, I'm trying to gain more resources to Latin America on climate tech, and you know, exploring the region. I went to a lot of conferences. I talked to a lot of people, and I saw a lot of great companies there that were developing some really cool things. Not, you know, some deep tech solutions, things in artificial intelligence, things in all these different fields that were really interesting. So, you know, we've already had our fifth investment out of Savia Ventures. As mentioned, I'll put it in the chat as well. The link, you can drop it. I'll drop the link here, and you can check out the website. Anybody who wants to apply, there's a place to drop your deck in there. So yeah, as I mentioned, we support a bunch of companies to help them scale and connect them to a lot of great resources. We're one of the first climate tech funds in Latin America that's doing this. And we have a pretty broad thesis, but it has to be focused on sustainability, and it has to be for profit, and it has to be a really scalable business model. So we want things that can even go global as well. So can expand out of the region and within the region. So across the different countries. The challenging thing in Latin America is that sometimes you get insulated into a certain country, into a certain market. So for instance, our Chilean companies, they have a hard time getting out of Chile and going to Mexico or going to Brazil, that kind of thing. So we do like business plans that they're already thinking through, how do I expand globally? So they can be companies that are that are expanding to Latin America or based there as well. But they have to be creating jobs in the region. They have to be creating opportunity in the space. So that's Savia in a nutshell. We have some great investors, some experts in climate tech, former entrepreneurs, innovators themselves, and have joined on board. We have some great partnerships, and we're trying to do a new prize forthcoming as well on female entrepreneurs in Latin America. So called the Savia Lotus. So a little bit of a teaser there, but going to be trying to award female entrepreneurs in Latin America within the climate space pretty soon as well.
That's really cool to hear, Matt. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll take you off the spot now. I understand you might have another meeting you have to drop off for. Really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway is follow the instructions. That's what we did to win the prize. Read into it. We use it to fundraise. We did something hard, stand out, do a little marketing, but really, really pay attention today to what the instructions are. You guys are engineers, but some people miss the top line details. So that's really how you win a prize. So yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's awesome. Great advice. Also on the Savia side.
Yeah.
Always think globally. So from prize creator to prize winner to impact investor to creating a new prize. Love it. Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Cheers. Oops, I did not want to do that. Sorry about that. All right, so moving on our agenda here. I keep doing this. I'm sorry, guys. Struggling here.
Thanks, Chad. Maybe while you're fixing that, I'll just introduce myself. That was so great. That was so inspiring to hear that. I'm Marian Adeney. I'm the director of Amazon and conservation programs at Conservation X Labs, and I'm going to jump in and tell you a little bit about the motivation and the reason why we're doing this particular Connex Tech Prize for the Amazon, and then I'll pass it off to Chad for some more of the technical details about the competition. So if you go to so this competition is all about building regenerative economies for the Amazon, and I'm so glad that Matt made some of those points at the end about the context in Latin America, because I think he pulled some of my talking points right out of this presentation, which is great. The economies of the Amazon currently and up until now, as many of you probably know, have been really based on economies of the past. If you go to the next slide, Chad. Economies that are really focused on extraction of resources for commodities, economies that don't leave economic benefits in the region, and economies that are driving an incredible amount of destruction in the Amazon that has both local, regional, and global consequences. And there's a whole movement, next slide, of people of whom we're a part that believe that the Amazon has an incredible opportunity at this point in time that's in some ways really unprecedented in the world to transform this reality and to build economies of the future, what we're calling modern and regenerative economies, based on some of the things that Matt talked about, the incredible talent in the region, markets that are untapped, and growing international attention, and then perhaps most importantly, this deep indigenous and local knowledge. I will slow down, Carmen, in the region. So there's, in addition to the fabled biodiversity of the Amazon, there is an incredible trove of local knowledge in the Amazon that can be part of these solutions. And these types of economies can actually create benefits for the region as well. Next slide. So this Connex Tech Prize is focused on building regenerative economies, economies that can conserve and regenerate natural resources for the Amazon. But in order to do this, we need a whole set of innovations and people working on this problem. So this is one of the reasons we invited Matt, and one of the reasons why Conservation X Labs is focusing on this, because we bring a whole network of global innovators, some of whom are probably here in this webinar, to think about new ideas for this region. In order to transform an economy, we need many, many new ideas coming to scale quickly. And that's what this competition is about. It's about taking ideas at the early stages and giving them a boost. If you go to the next slide. Yeah. So on this competition, we're focusing on replacements, technology and innovation driven solutions that can bring and create replacements for food, feed, fiber, and materials whose value chains contribute to environmental and cultural degradation, and that can do this using resources and knowledge from the Amazon. And the second category that we have here is actually practices or methodologies that can support the production and scale of these types of replacement products. And I have two examples to give you. You just heard from one of our previous Connex Tech Prize winners, but these two examples come from a competition that Conservation X Labs ran on reducing microfibers, the plastics that shed off of our clothes. And we picked these because they really illustrate the types of amazing new products and value chains that can come out of natural resources and natural processes. And the first one, Tandem Repeat, is actually a replacement fiber material that uses a unique protein structure that was originally found in the tentacles of a squid. And this was genetically sequenced, and using synthetic biology, the innovators created a strong and fast self-healing material that can actually be made into fibers and various other types of applications. So quite amazing, and an example of something that can come out of biological and genetic riches, of which the Amazon has many. And then the second one, Mango Materials, actually creates bioplastics using methane waste products and a actually non-genetically modified natural bacterial process that creates plastic pellets, not plastic, but a plastic-like material that's natural and biodegradable from methane waste. So again, an incredible process. And we know there are many such ideas and processes coming out of the Amazon and coming out of innovators that are working with people in the Amazon. We're going to quickly flash, we have it here, this QR code for the Conservation X Labs Innovation Catalog, which shows many of the innovations that we've supported over our 8-year history. And then I just want to finish before I pass this back to Chad on some of the benefits. And I almost don't need to do this slide because Matt kind of did it for me. But, you know, we really want to use this prize not only for whatever prize money or finances come out of this, but one of our really key goals with this competition is to create connections between innovators that come from the region, from outside of the region. This is part of the matchmaking process that we're putting in place, really bringing people together, because we need many, many minds on this problem from many sectors, from many regions. We have a lot of amazing solutions in the Amazon already, but in order to meet the speed and the scale of the problem that we're facing, we're going to need more people working together, more ideas. So this is a big part of this. And in addition, the recognition that this can bring, the coaching and technical assistance that Conservation X Labs will provide, there are many benefits to being in the competition beyond the prize purse itself. And with that, I'm going to pass this back to Chad to talk about some of the technical aspects. And then I think we'll have some time for questions.
Thanks, Marion. Yes. All right. So just want to step through some of the details of the competition, just to sort of level set for everyone. Again, I'll try to run through this kind of quickly so that we can have an opportunity to answer some questions. I think there have been a few coming in through the Q&A portal. Again, I'm back, Chad Gallinet, founder, director. So essentially, what we have $100,000 in prize purse that we're going to give away. So we'll be giving away 20 grants of $3,500 each to develop that prototype. And then of those 20 finalists that have received that prototyping grant, we will identify 3 winners. One winner will get 20K, the sort of grand prize winner, and then we'll have 2 smaller second prizes of $5,000 each. So that's the financial incentive that we're trying to provide here. What are we looking for? So along those themes that Marion discussed, we're looking at looking for high tech, high value innovations that really help share the benefits that arise from using these Amazonian resources. So just like in a broad way of looking at, like, innovation must be novel and must have value. It must have some sort of value in the open market. And it's got to be a new thing that hadn't existed prior. The innovation, it must be, a technology that has been written down or maybe done a little bit of experimentation on the lab bench. A technology that you can take and take it out of the lab and make it into a prototype or a proof of concept, very early stage. Again, the size of grants that we're providing are really meant to pop these things out of your mind, off of paper, and into reality. Again, innovation must have some sort of market value. And the financial benefits coming out of the Amazon must be appropriately shared with the communities that the innovations are coming from. So, and that's just kind of underpinned by that bottom line here, that they must adhere to the Nagoya Protocol on access to genetic resources and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits. Or if your country that you're from hasn't signed off on the Nagoya Protocol. I think Colombia down in South America is the one that comes to mind. Colombia has its own sort of protocols for this, so you must follow, the country of origin if they're not part of the Nagoya Protocol. So that's kind of sort of a broad view of what we're looking for. Now, this is a global competition. So although we are focused on the Amazon and we're really looking to build sort of an innovation ecosystem, or to help build an innovation ecosystem in the region, we're looking for innovators from anywhere. So you can come from anywhere in the world and apply. We are focused in the Amazon, and so part of what we are trying to do, and I'll mention this a little bit later, is actually match people maybe from abroad with team members in countries like Brazil, like Colombia, like Peru, to build sort of this sort of international interdisciplinary team. I'll get to that in a moment. But again, just want to make the point, it's a global competition. Although it's focused in the Amazon, these things have to be relevant to the Amazonian ecosystem. Ideas can come from anywhere. Eligibility. So participants, you can be an individual with an idea, or you can have a team. Individuals may apply, but you have to demonstrate through our question and answer portal, that you have the sufficient experience to actually, make your idea into a prototype. Again, participants can be pre-established teams. Also, you can come, if you don't have an idea of your own, you can be matched with people that do have ideas, or part of another team. And again, that's part of the matchmaking process that I'll mention at the end of the slideshow. You could come from any sector. It doesn't matter where you come from, what background you have, what training. We're going to just be evaluating your application as you wrote it down. You can be from public or private institution. You don't have to be associated with that institution. You can just be, applying independently. but you can be part of an institution as well. The only real rule we have about participation is that you have to be 18 years or older, or have your guardian sort of approve that you're able to participate. So that's kind of the only real sort of eligibility criteria that we have. Basically, if you're an individual, if you're a team, if you're from a institution, or if you're not, you can apply. We have a set of criteria that we're going to evaluate. I'm not going to go into detail here. These are in the Innovators Handbook, which we have a link at the end of the show here. But first of all, it's got to be innovative and transformative. We're looking for really revolutionary ideas. This crisis that we're in, this sort of twin climate and biodiversity crisis, is one that is exponential, and we need exponential revolutionary solutions to help solve it. And so we're looking for these really, in innovative, transformative ideas. They must have, net positive environmental outcomes. Coming from a conservation organization, that shouldn't be a surprise. I'm not going to read this all, but again, environmental impact is a very key category here. It must be culturally appropriate and socially responsible. Again, reflecting on the Nagoya Protocol mention that I had earlier, this can't have any undue harm to a specific group or population, and it has to have the equitable distribution of revenue to those communities that are either providing some sort of genetic resource or are the community that those come from. So benefits sharing has to happen in those communities. Again, we have links to the Nagoya Protocol. You can read through all this at your leisure. It's got to be feasible. It's really cool to have a really novel, innovative idea on paper, but then it's outside of the bounds of physical reality. So we need to make sure that these things actually are scientifically, technologically, and economically realistic. And so again, that's another one of the criteria that we'll be looking for. And as you go through the handbook and you go through the submittable platform where you'll be entering all your answers to our questions, you'll see how these are linked to those questions. Team composition is an important thing for us. Again, what we're looking for interdisciplinary and international teams, especially because of this focus on the Amazon, we are looking for team members that come from those countries. So part of this matchmaking process is to try to help out with that. If you have a team that doesn't have someone that's working in one of those countries in the Amazon, that's an opportunity for you to potentially add to your team. I will say, just because even if you don't have someone from the Amazon, doesn't mean you're not eligible again. But if you want to get the full 10 points for this category, you will have to have someone from the region. Scalability and impact, again, we're looking for these revolutionary ideas, so they have to be scalable. And that's another important part of our important category. We are doing a peer feedback stage through this. So you'll be submitting your proposals, answering the questions that we have on the submittable platform. And then actually everyone that submits will have the opportunity to evaluate their peers. So you will be asked to evaluate 2 to 4 applications and provide actual valuable feedback. And there's actually another prize that we haven't mentioned yet, but at the end of the entire process, when we identify our 20K winner and our 2 5K winners, the best feedback that helped that winner get to their 20K, there'll be a financial incentive for the team that provided valuable feedback for the eventual winner. So the peer feedback, there's a score, so it's a nominal, I think, 5% or 10% part of 5% of your total score will come based on your feedback that you deliver. But there's also a financial incentive at the end for you to provide quality feedback on your peers. Real quick, I know we're going a little bit over time. I wanted to be finished about 5 minutes ago. So here's the timeline. We'll be accepting submissions till April 26th. Matchmaking, we have a deadline currently of March 29th. I think we're going to extend that out for a couple of weeks. We'll talk about more later. But April 26th is our current deadline for submissions to the submittable platform. So April 26th, things close. We'll spend a few weeks in this peer feedback process that I was just kind of talking about. And then the participants that actually like are going through the peer feedback, and it's an opt-in opportunity. There's more information in the handbook. I'm kind of skipping over a lot of the details here, but you'll have till May 17th to incorporate that feedback and submit a final proposal. We'll then evaluate through an external review process. We'll have an external set of judges come through and look at all of these, and we'll identify our finalists and announce them in mid-June. You will then have until September to develop your prototype, submit some information to us, a video, and any other data that you've collected on developing your prototype, and we'll evaluate all of those, compare them against one another, and announce our 3 winners in October. So just to give you a sense of the sort of timeline for how this will work. As I mentioned, we do have this matchmaking process. So we're actually going to have, sorry, this should be Thursday, the 21st. So in 2 days, we're going to have another webinar that's going to talk specifically about the matchmaking process. So if you're interested in, joining a team or just being part of the matchmaking process, please come back on Thursday. But this is an opportunity to meet new team members, to add the expertise to your team if needed. Based on the there's another form for the matchmaking that we're collecting data from. We'll suggest some matches, but then we're going to have a live dynamic gathering sometime in April, and participants will get to meet one another based on our suggestions. We'll have an open discussion so people can also just get to know one another sort of outside of our suggestions, and hopefully that will lead to sort of new team formations, or at least maybe help build this community of practice that we're trying to do. And hopefully it'll add to your team and help you be successful. So again, if you're interested in that, come back on Thursday. Finally, all of this information is in way more detail, without skipping through important details, in our Innovators Handbook. I know many of you have probably already downloaded this, but if you haven't, please download the Innovators Handbook. It goes through all the criteria, it goes through all the questions that you'll be asked. And in a much more detail, and it also provides a lot more information about the process and the types of innovations that we're looking for. All right, so we're now at the Q&A part of the program. I am going to stop talking for a bit, open it up for questions. I'll leave this slide up here, so this will take you to the website where you can download the handbook and look at more information. I am going to pause and see where the questions are, and I will ask Maria, Fernanda, or Carmen to help us with some of these questions. Anything come through yet that we should answer?
I can mention actually, Chad, we have one question that I see here about the team points. If someone is not from the Amazon region, but from South America, will they receive the 10 points in the scoring process that you had mentioned?
I think if you show that you have some sort of connection to the Amazon and you have the relevant experience, I think that will go a long ways to getting that full 10 points. I would say that if you're from one of those countries, we're not going to be looking at people's addresses and going into that level of detail. So I think mentioning the country you're from will probably be enough to get that full 10 points. But we do want you to indicate your level of experience in working in the Amazon, and your work history, and just make sure that that's clear for us as we're evaluating to get, because to get the full 10 points, you do have to have someone from the region, but that's not the only way to get the full 10 points. You do have to show that the team is interdisciplinary, can actually achieve what we're looking for and developing that prototype. Hopefully that helps answer that question. Any others come through yet?
I haven't seen any other questions, Chad, but maybe while we're waiting, if any more come in, you could talk just a little bit about the matchmaking process. Because I think that may be something people are curious about. And for those who can't attend the webinar on Thursday, we could go into it now just a little bit.
Yeah. And there are a couple other questions that came up in Spanish. I'll have to ask one of my, maybe Marion, you can help with that. I do think, so for the matchmaking process, it's actually the first time we've done something like this. So we're pretty excited to do it, and it's going to feed into, building teams across the globe, across disciplines, is something that we're really interested in doing, and one of the goals for running this prize the way we're running it. And so we're really focused on it. And I think, based on the answers to the questions that people will provide in the matchmaking questionnaire, again, we're going to provide some sort of like matching. But one of the things you always hear, one of the things that we know, in order for startups, for teams to be successful, founders have to work well together. And so it's great to kind of match, like needs and complementary skill sets. But unless the founders actually like one another and want to work with one another, that complementary skill set doesn't mean a whole lot. So in addition to the sort of like matching that we're going to do based on your answers from the questionnaire, we want to have this opportunity for you guys to get to know one another. It's not going to be a very easy process doing it virtually and through Zoom. It would be great if we could all get together, and we would love to have done that, but we can't do that. So instead, we're going to do this dynamic Zoom process that will hopefully give you a chance to get to know one another and make an informed decision on whether or not you want to actually like work together with this person. And it's not going to be an easy process, especially if you're developing a prototype of something and you are based in Germany and your partner is based in Peru. I mean, that could be a difficult process, and we're going to do what we can to facilitate that going forward. But I think, we're really interested in making sure that people have the opportunity to get to know one another, like each other, and want to work together. And then hopefully there will be that third sort of piece where your expertise is matched with one another or complement with one another, so that you can help develop that prototype. So I'll stop there and try to answer a couple of these extra questions.
Sure. So we have a couple more questions that showed up in the chat. The first one is about the prototypes that get into the finalist round, if they will have any type of exposition or showcasing that we will have for those prototypes. And I'll just give you them both together, actually. The second question in the chat is whether teams can apply with an innovation that already exists, or does it have to be completely from zero?
Good questions. So in terms of the exposition, what we will do is if you look at our website, if you look at the previous years that we've run the Connex Tech Prize, we will be featuring all 20 finalists on our website. We'll ask for some video evidence, or maybe even something that looks like a pitch. If you want to pitch your solution, we will be focusing on that. We will put a spotlight on that through the website. So I think that's one place we'll do an exposition. We're not going to have unfortunately, we won't be able to do like an in-person sort of demo day type opportunity. We'd love to have done that sort of work, but we don't have the resources to run that sort of in-person gathering. But we will do a lot of virtual meetups, and even throughout the prototyping competition, we're going to have something that kind of looks like an accelerator almost, where we'll try to provide some sort of guidance on what it takes to build a prototype, or what it takes to build a successful startup, and those types of kind of acceleratory type activities during that prototyping process. So there'll be a lot of opportunities for folks to get together to help, again, build a community of practice around this. And then and then all 20 finalists will be featured on the website as they were in previous years. So that's the way we'll be at the exposition. And then in terms of if something already exists, so we do talk about this, and we do want to be open to this. So if and the way we talk about it in the handbook, and again, I would like encourage everyone to read the way we describe it in the Innovators Handbook. But essentially, if you already have something that exists and you're making a significant modification to it, then yes, that is in our mind essentially a new thing. So that would definitely count. If you're making like a small tweak to something that already exists, then it might not be eligible. But again, if it's a major pivot or a major change in an existing prototype or existing proof of concept, yes, it's eligible.
Great, thank you, Chad. So we have a couple more. The first one, I think it's a little bit more of a comment, but from Roberto Lopez, we've been 7 years developing opportunities to work with local communities to have a better life and produce food and nutrients that are from and that restore the forest. It would be amazing if someone knew about the Proyecto Floresta en Movimiento, the forest project in movement. And we will enter the contest and hope to be one of the prizes. We're from the Ilha de Marajó. Yeah, so that's great. Thank you for attending and mentioning, and we would love to have you apply. There was one more question that, oh, there's a couple more.
All right.
There was one that disappeared, but I think it was, how could we be contacted? It looks like Carmen answered it. How can we be contacted if people have a question or want to know if their idea is eligible to participate? And Carmen has put our email address in the chat. So we do have this email address, amazon@conservationxlabs.org, that is open for questions around the competition. Are there any more that I missed? I think we have a couple people monitoring the chat who are not on video here.
Marion, we're all good. I think we answered them all.
Great. So I guess I will pass this off to Chad to close, but I just want to say before we do that we're really excited to have you all in this webinar. We're excited to be running this competition and to see already the interest that this has generated. We will have this video available for people who were not able to make it at this time, and we are available for additional questions via the email. So really encourage you to reach out, share this, and be part of this solution. Chad?
I'll echo what Marion just said. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. And if you're listening on the recording, again, here's a QR code to take you to the website. Please take a look at that. There it is again. Here's our email address, amazon@conservationxlabs.org. There's the website in case the QR code doesn't work. So you shouldn't have any problem getting to any of this stuff. Again, we'll be closing at the end of April. So please do pop in there as soon as you can, take a look at the questions, go through the Innovator Handbook. Again, it steps you through all the questions that we'll be asking. It goes into detail on those criteria. And we will be hosting this matchmaking workshop on Thursday. So if that's of interest to you, please join us again. I think it's at the same time on Thursday, on the 21st. Yeah, I think that's all we have. So thanks again, and best of luck in the competition. Cheers.